Hello again. Hi. Today's topic is education. We will go through some part 1, part 2, and part 3 IELTS topic education. You are likely to be asked questions about your studies during part 1. You might have to talk about a class, a teacher, or a school memory in part 2, or give your opinions on education in part 3. Therefore, being able to call on a wide range of vocabulary to talk about education is very important. Part 1 questions on the IELTS exam you must answer with 2 or 3 sentence response. Our first question today is, the examiner asks, "Are you studying English at a school?" The student replies, "Yes, I'm taking an intensive course at a local private language school. I attend classes 3 times a week." The student uses an intensive course. This is a course that offers lots of training in order to reach a goal in as short a time possible. An intensive course. The student says, "I attend a private language school." A private language school is an independent school run as a business concern. Private language school. To attend classes. The meaning of this is to go to classes, to attend on-site classes. The second question, part 1, the examiner asks, "Would you say you are a good student?" The student responds, "I'm okay. I think I'm pretty good at meeting deadlines and I'm keeping up with my studies. Plus, I find it quite easy to learn things by heart, which is useful when learning a language." Meeting a deadline. To meet a deadline means to finish a job or task in the time allowed or agreed. To meet a deadline. The student says, "To keep up with my studies." To keep up with your studies means to not fall behind. To keep up with your studies. To learn something by heart. To learn something by heart means to memorize it. Whatever you're studying, you memorize to learn something by heart. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you. Our third question on part 1, the examiner says, "When you were younger, did you enjoy your time at school?" The student answers, "Yes, I liked school. It was an ordinary state school, nothing special. A single-sex school, which I'm not sure I liked, but the teachers were great and I had a lot of friends. I never played truant like some pupils there." Great vocabulary. Our first vocabulary is state school. A state school is a school run by the government. It's not a private school or business. A state school. The student says, "A single-sex school." This means a school where only boys or girls attend. A single-sex school. The last vocabulary in this answer, The student says to play truant. To play truant is to stay away from classes without permission. To play truant. Part 2. In part 2, you must speak for 2 minutes on a topic that the examiner gives you. This one is, describe a time during your education that you really enjoyed. You must speak for 2 minutes. Also include when this period was, where you were, what you were studying at the time, and say why you were so happy. The student responds, I'd like to tell you about my time at university. I was a mature student. I didn't go to university until I was 25. And it was my first time away from my parents, so it was very exciting. I was doing a bachelor's degree and it was a bit of a challenge. Some people take a year out, but I'd been away from education for 8 years. Plus, I had to work my way through uni. So I was very busy, and sitting exams at the end of each year was a new experience for me as well. But I really enjoyed higher education, learning about a subject I loved, history. And the social life was great as well. I don't think I've ever had so many friends. I had my graduation ceremony last year in the local cathedral, and I know my parents were really proud. So yes, that was a really happy time. I'm thinking of doing a master's degree soon, though that might be through distance learning, as I have a full-time job now. A great part 2 response. The first vocabulary, the student uses a mature student. A mature student is a student who is older than average and who has usually returned to education after a period at work or maybe traveling. A mature student. A bachelor's degree. This is an undergraduate course which usually lasts 3 to 4 years. A bachelor's degree. The student says to take a year out. To take a year out is to spend a year working or traveling before starting university. To take a year out. To work your way through university. To have a paid job while studying to support yourself financially. To work your way through uni or university. The student says sitting exams. To sit an exam is to take an exam. To sit an exam. Higher education. This means education usually in a college or university that is followed after high school or secondary school. Higher education. A graduation ceremony. This is an event where a successful student receives his or her academic degree. A graduation ceremony. Next, the student uses master's degree. A master's degree is a period of study which often follows the completion of a bachelor's degree, or is undertaken by someone regarded as capable of a higher level academic course, a master's degree. The final vocabulary in this part 2 response, the student says, distance learning. Distance learning is a way of studying where tuition is carried out over the internet or by post. Distance learning. Part 3, topic education. In this part, the examiner will expect you to answer with 3 or 4 sentence responses. The first question, the examiner asks, what qualities do you think a good teacher has? The student responds with, they should be patient, they should be subject specialists, and be able to explain the subject clearly. They should give feedback quickly. For example, not hang on to essays for ages like some of my teachers. A great answer. The student uses subject specialist. A subject specialist is a teacher who has a great deal of knowledge about the subject they teach. A subject specialist. To give feedback. To give feedback means to offer guidance on a student's work. To give feedback. All of the answers or responses in this lesson are all above 8. Really good vocabulary used. The second question on this part 3, the examiner asks, what are the advantages of studying on a distance learning course? The student replies, it's a more flexible way of studying, especially if you have a job. Tuition fees are usually cheaper, but you have to be very motivated. And I would imagine more people fall behind with their studies compared to face-to-face classes. A great answer. The first vocabulary, the student uses tuition fees. Tuition fees, the money paid for a course of study. Tuition fees. The student says, to fall behind with your studies. This means to progress less quickly than others. To fall behind with your studies. Then the student says, face-to-face classes. Face-to-face classes are, as opposed to distance learning, the traditional way of studying in a classroom with colleagues and a teacher. On-site learning, face-to-face classes. The third and final question, part 3, the examiner says, do all children get equal opportunities in education? The student replies, in my country, I think it is quite equal. But in the UK, I've heard that most people who go to the top universities have studied at public schools. You have to be very rich to study in a school like that. They're usually boarding schools as well, so the fees are enormous. Public schools. A public school is an exclusive, independent school in the UK. Public schools. The student uses boarding school. A boarding school means a school where pupils live during term time. They sleep at the school. A boarding school. And that brings us to the end of this lesson. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye-bye.